Their best year ever and asked me if I'd like to thank their customers on their behalf for being so awesome. I said, sure. It's important to say thanks, especially this time of year, which is why, as one of their many satisfied customers, I should probably thank Pure Talk first for keeping their customer service in this country and for providing hundreds of American jobs. I appreciate that. I also appreciate their Roundup program, which makes it easy to support America's Warrior Partnership and join the fight against veteran suicide. And I love that Pure Talk donated 1,000 hand-sewn Made in America flags to veterans around Independence Day. And of course, I really appreciate their generous support of my own foundation, MicroWorks, and their commitment to help us train the next generation of skilled workers. Having said all that, it's now my pleasure, on behalf of everyone at Pure Talk, to thank you sincerely for choosing to do business with an American wireless company that actually stands for something. And one more thing. Merry Christmas.
A judge in Wisconsin on trial for allegedly obstructing immigration agents.
Protesters gathered in Milwaukee, Wisconsin Monday at the start of an unusual jury trial. Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan is accused of trying to help an undocumented immigrant evade arrest by federal agents. The man involved, Eduardo Flores Ruiz, reported for a hearing on charges of battery with a domestic abuse modifier.
That is Jennifer King reporting. Authorities in Providence, Rhode Island, continue their search for a man who walked into Brown University's campus and opened fire.
Additional police have been sent to Providence schools to reassure worried parents that their kids will be safe with the Brown University shooter on the loose, and no indication yet that investigators have zeroed in on a specific suspect in the weekend attack. Authorities released several new videos of the man suspected in the mass shooting inside of a Brown classroom, which killed 2 students and wounded 9 others.
That is correspondent Haya Panjawi reporting. You'll find breaking news and analysis at townhall.com. Ford is now pivoting away from its once ambitious electric vehicle plans.
The decision comes amid financial losses and waning consumer demand for the vehicles. Instead, it'll invest in more efficient gasoline engines and hybrid EVs. The Detroit automaker, which has poured billions of dollars into electrification along with most of its industry peers, said it will no longer make the F-150 Lightning electric pickup truck, instead opting for an extended range version of the vehicle. Keith Peters, Washington.
October retail spending was unchanged, signaling a pause after summer gains, and auto dealer sales fell by 1.6%, as though those electric vehicle incentives came to an end. Overall, sales rose 0.4% outside the auto sector. The figures, those reports, were delayed by the government shutdown earlier this year. You'll find more on these stories at townhall.com.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Hey, how you doing? Santa Vic here.
And Santa's Hedvig head here.
Right. And you can win some great prizes with Newstalk STL's St. Louis Conservative Christmas.
You forgot the ho-ho-ho. You forgot the ho-ho-ho.
Oh!
No, ho-ho.
Oh! Log on to newstalkstl.com for your chance to win great prizes from Ami's Pizzeria and Restaurant, Small Cakes Cupcakery and Creamery, and Gulf Shores Restaurant, Food Truck and Catering. Newstalkstl.com.
Oh!
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't, and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with this free call. 800-524-1641. 800-524-1641. 800-524-1641. That's 800-524-1641.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
What a day, huh? Plenty of sunshine out there and high temperatures in the mid-50s, a dry day. Not as cold overnight tonight, lows in the 30s tomorrow, and again, the highs in the mid-50s. We'll see some clouds occasionally, especially later in the day, but it looks like some rain is moving in on Thursday, possibly a couple of rumbles of thunder. It'll turn cooler as well. I'm meteorologist Kent Earhart.
This hour of Colombo Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
Bring joy to the world, it's the thing to do. But the world does not revolve around you. Don't be a jerk. It's Christmas. It's Christmas.
Happy holidays. Welcome to Colombo Company on News Talk STL.
Indeed. Welcome to Colombo and Company. I'm Tony Colombo in studio with producer Ashlyn for another packed afternoon. Thank you for being with us. So much to talk about today. Jamie Allman was touching on this new information that is coming out. FBI documents and emails being revealed regarding the raid of Mar-a-Lago during the Biden administration, and how we're learning now internally the FBI doubted whether they had probable cause or if that was an action that needed to be taken. And this is pretty interesting stuff. So we're going to reveal some of that, those emails, and talk about them as we go through the show this afternoon. Speaking of the FBI, more reports surrounding Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino and him possibly leaving the FBI over the next couple weeks. We will talk about that. Lot of information and news coming out of the corruption in Minnesota. We have got the education secretary digging into some of the details and releasing a letter to Tim Walz today, telling him it's time to step away from his leadership, the governor position in Minnesota. Also, in addition to that, we've got more details about how that fraud system worked, how deeply it ran, and some of the new information that's been revealed by investigations into it. It's pretty crazy stuff. So we'll talk about that. We've got more madness coming out of New York. Zorhan Mondani's father is criticizing Columbia University and their crackdown on anti-Semitism. He's mad about the crackdown on anti-Semitism and speaking out against it. What is New York in for when Zorhan Mondani takes over as president? We've also got the latest from Australia and more information to talk about regarding that tragedy. AOC being exposed in a new report regarding election spending and how, let's just say, her whole, tax the rich are bad. Nobody needs to live that, in that type of luxury. Apparently it's a do as I say, not as I do situation with AOC after the report that has been released. And we'll dig into that and more. There's so much to talk about as we go through the afternoon. And we have some help with us as always. Today in the 3:00 hour, we will talk to our legal expert, the co-host of Mike Ferguson in the Morning, Susie Moore from Red State and also Red State Radio. Looking forward to that conversation. And joining us on the line right now and for this entire 2:00 hour as we dig into all of these important issues, the great Crane Durham from nothingbutTruth.com and the Nothing But Truth Facebook page. And Crane, I don't need, what else can you do when all of this stuff is happening around you? Brothers don't shake hands. Brothers just gotta hug.
Gotta hug and get close and low. That's how it would go for us, buddy.
Yeah.
If we were under attack, that's what we do. I try to cover you, you try to cover me. I mean, we wouldn't be able to decide. But the fact is, what we are seeing today is something that we talked about over the last few years, which is a movement, radical Islam and Marxism together. Scary stuff. And you're not going to change the radical part of Islam. These Islamists, you're just not going to do it. They hate Jews. They've always hated Jews. But now we have the rising tide of anti-Semitism here in the United States. And I say rising, but they have been the number one group targeted if you look at hate crimes. So we got a problem.
Yeah. You know what? And let's just go ahead and start there. I was going to start with this FBI stuff. We'll get to that in a moment. Let's start with because a lot of what you just mentioned there is being discussed as the root cause of the tragedy in Australia. And of course, you know, the root cause of a lot of other issues happening around the country, including New York and the situation there with Zoran Mondani's father speaking out against the move by that college to crack down on anti-Semitism. He's upset about that somehow. But let's start with the Australian news. So Australian leaders last night, speaking about the tragedy over the weekend, promised to strengthen the country's already restrictive gun laws in the wake of the weekend mass shooting at the Hanukkah celebration. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese announced several proposed actions, including one to limit the number of guns someone can own and a review of licenses held over time. Quote, the government is prepared to take whatever action is necessary, which is not true. I hate when leaders say that. They say they're willing to take whatever action is necessary, but they're only talking about gun laws. They're not, which is not any action necessary. They're not talking about any action necessary. They're talking about one specific thing. So that first part of the sentence is a lie. Again, quote, the government is prepared to take whatever action is necessary. Included in that is the need for tougher gun laws, he said after a meeting with his national cabinet. Obviously, there's been a lot of reaction to this, including from Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator Graham is someone who I, have agreed with very strongly on certain issues in the past and disagreed with very strongly on certain issues in the past. But I agree with his assessment of in reaction to that statement by the leaders in Australia. Lindsey Graham addressed this, pointing out that Australia's actions and lack of action is what put the Jewish community at risk. They're not gun laws. Graham criticized Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese for recognizing a Palestinian state after the October 7th terror attacks, noting that Israeli leaders plainly warned him against the move. Quote, the Prime Minister of Australia was told by the Israeli Prime Minister, if you recognize a Palestinian state after they killed 1,200 Jews while they're still in charge of Gaza and the West Bank, you're putting Jews in Australia at risk, Graham said, arguing that political decisions led to the deaths of the innocent Jews in Australia. He added that other governments recognizing a Palestinian state after Hamas's deadly incursion into Israel have similarly enticed more terrorism. His quote, that quote, enticed more terrorism. He went on, quote, you don't want forever wars, but I can tell you this, they're forever going to try to kill you. And the way to prevent them from getting over here is to hit them over there, to have allies and not act alone. The Australian model failed the Australian Jewish community. It failed the Australian people. He rejected the argument that gun restrictions play any role in preventing terrorist or ISIS-inspired attacks and accused Australia's government of failing to promise action against the terrorists. One last quote from Lindsey Graham here, quote, you've allowed ISIS to come into your country and never once tonight did you promise the Australian people you're going to hunt these cells down and kill them all. He said extremist groups like ISIS remain committed to global violence and must be met with force, calling the conflict a fight for civilization itself. Your thoughts, Crane, on Lindsey Graham's thoughts and the announcement from the Australian Prime Minister that in response to this deadly attack on Jewish citizens there in Australia, he's going to enact tougher gun laws.
Yeah, he's stuck on stupid, and it's a dangerous stupid, because that's what he's going to do. He's going to look at the mechanism instead of the ideological foundation of the hate toward Jews, and that's radical Islam as we know it. Islamic supremacy. And if you look at Islam, generally speaking, where they are in a majority, you got a lot of tyranny there. You got a lot of human rights abuses because they don't recognize the difference between the head of state, or excuse me, they combine the head of state with the head of the religion. And so that is a part of it. They're going to live under those laws. They're going to make that happen. And that's just dangerous and should be spoken out against. And it gets me really chapped because Reagan did something with the Cold War. He understood atheism, communism was horrible, and it kills the soul. And so he spoke of the evil empire while giving a speech, a pro-life speech to evangelicals in Florida. And what shocked me about that was it wasn't a foreign policy speech, but it was a pro-life speech. But he nailed the foundation of it all, understanding life is a gift from God. Now, we don't have to be the world's policeman unless they get dangerous enough to hit us, right? And take over parts of our interests. That's pretty much a general foreign policy view. If there's genocide, we oftentimes redefine genocide as Clinton did in the 90s. I digress only to say that the discussion that we have about taking action is hamstrung by terms like forever wars and saying that the gun violence, it's human violence, and it's done by a gun. I mean, look, I sliced a steak the other day with my family. It was wonderful. My mother-in-law makes a great steak. Okay, focus. And I used that knife for that, and I ate really well, and I was so grateful. And OJ used it to behead his wife. All right, I'm not looking at the knife. I'm looking at the person or the ideology. Now, one thing we can do is speak about Islamic supremacists and what is happening. We can also challenge our Muslim communities in America to stand up and do what we would do if, say, Christians, somebody was doing this in the name of Jesus, because it's not our dance. And I would absolutely defend my faith and say that's not a part of it. And people ask, why wouldn't the first group, like that Muslim man who stopped the killing in Australia, first group go and be against what is happening to their religion? And a lot of times they say they're afraid. That might be another discussion of how to solve the problem. It's not the guns. It's taking away the guns. That's what you do. You don't understand incentives in human nature. It is rewarding a Palestinian state in the vein of human rights when you have people burning ovens, burning children in ovens, and raping women to death in front of their family. I mean, this is evil. And we are not calling it out as a society and a country enough.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's a fear to do so. I think there's a fear. I think that is part of the reason why the Australian Prime Minister, he knows he has to say something. He knows he has to come out and have and express some sort of plan or some sort of action. But he's too afraid because of the woke culture and the backlash from the progressives around the world and in his own country, that if he appears to blame anyone, even though there's clearly someone to blame, that that backlash is not something that he wants to deal with. So instead, he comes out as we see so many times after these tragedies, and we blame the gun, and we don't blame the culture. We don't blame the people. We don't blame.
We're not going to fix the problem.
The warning.
We're not fixing the problem.
Yeah, great point.
And we'd fix it right away, wouldn't we? If the leaders were experiencing what the rest of us are experiencing, and God forbid that, I don't want that. But my point is, they're isolated in a bubble of security. And while yes, there are assassination attempts, etc., we've seen that. But my point is, they're not living under the laws and the impact of the laws of their bad policies, and it's killing us literally.
You touched on something there, kind of a side note on this, when you talked about Clinton and just redefining things, and that seems to be the way. That's another part of the new progressive playbook, is to just. I think it was Jim Clyburn who, when we were talking about at the beginning of the Trump administration, or maybe this was during the presidential campaign, and crime stats were being discussed, and the rise in crime stats and how bad they were. And I think it was Clyburn, as one of the well-known Democrats, said, well, if you want to have less crime, just change the laws. Just make those crimes not crimes anymore, and then you'll have less crime, which is just crazy. And if you remember Joe Biden during the last recession, he just changed the definition of a recession. Pretty easy way to get rid of a recession if you just change the definition,
Orwellian,
or get rid of crimes if you just change the definition. It's another piece of the playbook.
Yeah, and it's not going away. And understand that if you are a friend of history, in the sense of studying history and seeing things, we line up to the 30s and see some things, and they're deeply disturbing. The League of Nations was coming apart from the beginning, rewriting the narrative on World War I. What do we have at the UN? We have human rights abusers on the Human Rights Council, yet we still are a part of that. That was a great speech by our president, President Trump. That's a good one for him. That was awesome. But the point is, everybody looks for another way out. And I understand that when it comes to peace, and not going and putting men and women in harm's way. But we have to address ideologically, we have to stand up and call things out. And when there is a necessary confrontation like Ukraine and Putin, let's understand that the only way a brutal dictator like Vladimir Putin is going to stop is he either accomplishes his goal, or he experiences so much pain, so much death, that he can't continue.
It's Crane Durham from nothingbutTruth.com. We are going to continue the conversation about these things and more, including this new report out showing that the FBI doubted probable cause for the Mar-a-Lago raid during the Biden administration. However, of course, still went through with that at the pressing from the Biden DOJ. We're going to reveal some of these emails and some of those details and unpack it as we continue the conversation with Crane Durham next.
1, 2, 3, take my hand and come with me, because you look so fine that I really want to make you mine. You look so fine that I really
Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL.
get your kicks now. You don't need the money when you look like that, do you, honey?
News Talk STL. Always streaming on your smart speaker, our mobile app, or newstalkstl.com.
Our buddy Dave Sylvester from Gutter Pros was in studio with us yesterday afternoon. If you missed any of that conversation, go back and check it out on the podcast. Always a lot to learn whenever we talk to Dave and his team there at Gutter Pros. And this time of year, this is when you really start to see the damage that can be done to your home or your business if you are not keeping up, or there is a problem with your gutters or your siding or the fascia or the soffit, all these things that the Gutter Pros can take care of for you. If you have damaged siding and you're allowing water and moisture to get in behind the siding there, when we go through a deep freeze like we just recently went through, that's when you can see all this damage happening. Same thing happening with your gutters. If you have clogs because of not having the right leaf protection or other damage to your gutters or whatever it may be, and it's not draining properly and it's filling with water, and then we go through the deep freeze, and things expand and now the gutters are separating from your home, or, things are getting on the inside of the walls there. These are all the things that Gutter Pros can help you with. Of course, they're the Gutter Pros. So it's gutter repair, gutter replacement, leaf protection, all of those things, but also fascia, soffit, siding repair, siding installation. They do it all at Gutter Pros. Learn more and contact them now at gutterpros.com.
The Herzog Foundation is the vision of its founder, Stanley Herzog, and it exists to promote quality Christ-centered K-12 education nationwide.
Hi, this is Chris Stegall with the Herzog Foundation. We offer a wide variety of resources relevant to today's families, including a free online publication called The Lion. The lion is one of God's most majestic creatures, symbolizing strength and courage. Named for its attributes, the Lion publication carries articles covering a wide range of topics facing American families and culture, especially related to the education of children. The Lion can be found online at readlion.com. That's READ lion.com.
Sign up for The Lion at readlion.com and find dozens of must-read articles published every day. Visit readlion.com and subscribe for the weekly and daily digests so you never miss an article. Readlion.com. That's readlion.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Did Donald Trump and Republicans make everything great again over the weekend? We'll discuss with Senator Jim Talent at 425. At 525, Red State Headlines with Susie Moore.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company. I'm Tony Colombo in studio. On the line with us is Crane Durham from nothingbutTruth.com. And Crane, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at these new documents being released, specifically in a report from Fox News Digital today. But the conversation about weaponizing government and weaponizing the DOJ and the justice system and things like that continues to be a big point of discussion. And here's more proof at just the reality and how true those things were during the Biden administration, as if we needed any more proof. But a lot here. We'll kind of go bit by bit, and I want to get your thoughts on this. The FBI did not believe it had probable cause to raid President Trump's Mar-a-Lago home in 2022, but moved forward amid pressure from the Biden Justice Department, with an official saying he, quote, didn't give a damn about the optics of the search, according to newly declassified documents reviewed by Fox News Digital. Fox News Digital revealed and reviewed emails between FBI and Justice Department officials in the months leading up to the August 2022 raid of Mar-a-Lago, with FBI officials expressing concerns about a lack of probable cause to execute the search warrant on the former president's home in Palm Beach, Florida. Quote, very little has been developed related to who might be culpable for mishandling the documents. An FBI official serving as an assistant special agent in charge wrote to another FBI official at this time. However, another official pressed them to keep looking and to keep reporting back. So let's stop there for a second, because I can read a whole bunch of these, Crane, but it paints the story of the people that are doing the investigation in the FBI and are tasked with the evidence and the proof and the reasoning, enough proof to move forward with a raid on Trump's home. They keep reporting back, we don't really have what you're looking for, and there's not really that proof to meet that burden. And every time they are told by their superiors and by the Biden administration, the DOJ specifically, to keep looking, because we're going to do this one way or another. So you better find a reason. And that is, I don't think that's innocent until proven guilty. I don't think that's proper due process. Find the evidence, because we're doing this no matter what.
Yeah. It's like Letitia James saying, I'm going to put him in jail. I'm just going to find a reason.
I'll find a reason.
I'll find a reason. And I thought Trey Gowdy there, Dave, made a good point on this. He was talking about what the warrant was predicated on. What is the foundation? And I think that really goes to it. I think in a hearing, I can digest, in an elevator, I can digest, you had this evidence and you opened the door with it and you didn't have the evidence. So why is it that you don't have the evidence, but you open the door? And make it very clear that this is what we're talking about by weaponizing government and saying, how was the decision made? Because one of the ways they did it in the Hillary Clinton campaign in 2016 is they got it into the press and then took those press clippings and justified it by those headlines and stories in the press about something like collusion with Russia. And they never had the evidence. And I think what happens sometimes with these, and that's why Susie Moore is so great, is it goes into the legal and then we sit back and are like, what's going on here? But if they can identify a specific substantive, hey, you based it on this evidence, you opened this door, why? And get answers.
After several weeks of this back and forth, picking it back up here, an FBI agent writes in an email, quote, "We haven't generated any new facts, but keep being given draft after draft after draft, absent a witness coming forward with recent information about classified on site. At what point is it fair to table this? It is time consuming for the team. It is not productive if there are no new facts supporting PC probable cause." Question mark. Another email revealed that the FBI, so that agent is essentially saying, when do we just move on and stop this investigation and move away from the idea of this raid, because we're not getting getting any new information. There's no new facts. There's no new witnesses. There's no new information. So asking the question, can we just move on? Obviously, no. Another email revealed that the FBI's Washington field office did, quote, "not believe and articulated to DOJ that we have established probable cause for the search warrant for classified records at Mar-a-Lago." However, Biden's DOJ continued to claim they had reason for a raid, despite FBI agents saying otherwise. Emails just before the raid was executed show the FBI believed that a raid would be, quote, "counterproductive," and suggested alternative, less inclusive, and likelier quicker options for resolutions to reclaim any potential classified records. But obviously that didn't happen, and the DOJ, along with the FBI, moved forward with that raid. So knowing that, just this little piece of the backstory, that the FBI was clearly in the ones on the front line, the agents in charge of conducting this investigation, were telling their superiors and telling the Biden administration and the DOJ, it's just not there. They went forward with it anyway. I mean, that is something that I think the American people really need to realize and know happened.
Can you imagine what would happen if this were a Democrat?
Flip tested, right? No kidding.
And then you have the Justice Department protecting Biden after that interview, and Biden going out and trashing the guy. I've already forgot his name, but he did a good job in the sense of saying, hey, the president wasn't pretty much all there. He was a old man and he was a little foggy, like, going into an old folks home, maybe even memory care, and being like, hey, what day is it? So, and that's not a shot.
Yeah.
God bless those people. I love them. My mom was in there.
That was reality.
That's reality.
That's
and
what
that's
the
what
reality
we
of the
have
situation.
running the country.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's so. I always get with these things when it went back to Whitewater. Whitewater, that was in the 90s, man. Okay, but it went back to Whitewater and Clinton, and it just got so involved nobody could understand it fully. And I think you got to really make these bite-sized stories that are going to be digestible, so people can say, "Hey, you lied. You used something to open a door, and that was not the key to opening that door. You broke that innocent before guilty,
Yeah.
as you know, and clearly do it so people can identify and say, okay, now I get it. It's not just a bunch of people disagreeing. No, there was something to use to open the door. It wasn't the key legally, ostensibly. That's what I'm getting. And they opened the door. And if they can do that to the president, they can do it to anyone.
Does anybody ever get held to account? Does anybody ever pay the price for breaking laws, for using their power, for abusing, I should say, their power? Anybody named Clinton? Anybody named Biden? Anybody named Pelosi? Do we ever see anything? I mean, it's important. It's good to know. I mean, there is benefit in reporting these things and making people aware of them. But true justice would be, holding people account for their actions. Is that ever going to happen?
I think elections have proven to be the only accountability that we have. With Clinton, he lost his law license in dealing with the Lewinsky stuff, but he lost the next election. Gore didn't beat Bush, and everybody thought that Gore won. Oh, conspiracy theorists on the Democrats. Okay. So the idea is that the true only accountability is to the American people. You lose an election, your party loses an election. Would I like to see people who used a key that was a crock and didn't line up? When people break the law, we all want to have some accountability, as you pointed out, and you've talked about this from day one with any scandal, Tony, and this is what I love, because it goes to the heart of the issue. We talk about our justice system and the people in power, nobody's above the law. Apparently, for Democrats, that changes a bit. And anybody from Republican to Democrat who is using the system to settle personal scores is subject to that criticism to say, hey, wait a second, are you doing this legally? And if you are you targeting the person and you don't really have a case? Go with the substance.
Mm-hmm.
Go with the substance on these.
One more thing here I wanted to talk about the FBI before we change subjects. There are once again reports coming out that Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino may be leaving the bureau. There's been reports that he will make a decision about his future over the next couple of weeks. Reports say that while sources deny recent reports that Bongino's office at the FBI is empty, that's been reported in several places, but the official word for the FBI is that is not true, that he did not clean out his office. It is still his office. They do claim, however, that his departure is a possibility in the near future. Bongino's tenure at the FBI has come under fire in recent weeks alongside FBI Director Kash Patel. Earlier this month, a report from an alliance of active duty and retired FBI personnel portrayed the Bureau as directionless under its new leadership. But Bongino and Patel pushed back on that report, defending sweeping reforms. They say have delivered major gains in accountability and public safety. And of course, there was a New York Post column by Miranda Devine last week that reported on an internal FBI report. Again, active duty and retired agents. And according to her report about this internal survey or whatever internal memo, that they are upset with leadership, and that could be what is all leading to this conversation surrounding Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino has been surprisingly quiet since the early days of the Trump administration. I thought, knowing Dan as we did, one of our colleagues here at News Talk STL, that he would, we would be hearing a lot from him during his time at the FBI. We haven't. I don't know if that's a sign of anything, but I don't know. Maybe it has not gone the way he thought it would go once joining the administration. What do you make of all this, Crane?
Well, I think Dan Bongino was a talk show host, and now he is a deputy in the FBI, and so the jobs are different. in that way. And there's a communications department with the FBI, et cetera. Would we like to hear from them? You betcha. When it comes to these rumors, or excuse me, the criticism of the Justice Department, or let's just go overall, FBI law, they took down, within a year, they took down 4 of Americans' top 4 most wanted Americans. In the sense of criminals, most wanted criminals. Okay. That's a result. The border is, they've stopped it. That's a result. I look at results when they do this. They just stopped a terror attack by some, it looks like Marxist nut bars. And so that, to me, I look at that and say, okay, here's what I'm seeing. And I think you always have a response and an opportunity to remind people, my system, their system. Let's line it up. And I've only been here 1 year. So that is something, that's how I look at the responses. I don't think there are a lot of conspiracies here. I think people, anytime you're effective, there are always rumors. They did this, remember in wrestling when they did Randy Orton? Randy Orton was going to get fired. He's always going to get fired. You know, he's out.
Hey.
You know, any industry impact, if somebody's making an impact, oftentimes they're a bunch of conspiracy and theories that they're going to be put out.
Perfect lead into the next topic that I want to get into before we run out of time with Crane Durham from nothingbutTruth.com. Crane has got one more segment with us here before we get Susie Moore on the line. Education Secretary Linda McMahon, speaking of wrestling, sent a scathing letter to Minnesota Governor Tim Walz today, calling on him to resign over the massive fraud scandal in his state. And the secretary also released new information about just how deep this fraud, this scandal went, and some of the cost, the amount of people involved, some of the numbers, and just how deep it goes. So we'll tell you that. We'll get into the information that was released by the secretary and read part of this letter to Tim Walz, get you the latest on everything happening there up in Minnesota as we continue with Crane Durham here on Colombo and Company.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com. The news and talk
85-year-old Nancy Pelosi, she's finally calling it quits.
That matters to St. Louis.
The people who love Mom Donnie the most are not people who pay bills every day.
This is 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Located in the heart of St. Charles, Kevin's Guns is your family-owned destination for all things firearms. Whether you're a collector, hunter, or military enthusiast, we have it or can get it for you. From new to used rifles and handguns in every style and caliber, our friendly and knowledgeable staff is here to help educate you and ensure you make the perfect choice for your needs. Buy, sell, or browse our incredible selection at kevinsguns.net or call 636-493-1195. Kevin's Guns, where gun enthusiasts come home.
Complete pest protection starts with Buckingham Pest Control, your award-winning, locally owned pest control and insulation experts. Jamie Allman here, and Buckingham's experienced certified technicians arrive in fully marked vehicles ready to tackle residential or commercial pest problems, termite inspections, and even wild animal removal. Need new attic insulation? Don't miss out on year-end federal tax credits too. BuckinghamPestControl.com. That's BuckinghamPestControl.com.
This hour of Colombo and Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com.
Where I come from isn't all that
Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.9 News Talk STL. Continuing our conversation with Crane Durham from nothingbutTruth.com. In about 15 minutes, a little more than 15 minutes in the 3 o'clock hour, we'll be joined by Susie Moore, co-host of Mike Ferguson in the Morning from Red State. But moving up to Minnesota here, Crane, in a letter sent to Minnesota Governor Tim Walz today, Donald Trump's education secretary blasted his handling of the massive and still developing fraud crisis in the state and called on him to resign from his posts over the scandal while highlighting fraud allegations within the state's college education system. Education Secretary Linda McMahon wrote in this letter today, quote, "You have been Minnesota's governor since 2019. During that time, your careless lack of oversight and abuse of the welfare system has attracted fraudsters from around the world, especially from Somalia, to establish a beachhead of criminality in our country. As President Trump put it, you have turned Minnesota into a fraudulent hub of money laundering activity." At the conclusion of the scathing letter, McMahon called on Walz to step down over the scandal, saying, quote, "Given your dereliction of the office entrusted to you by Minnesotans, I implore you to resign and make way for more capable leadership." Let's stop there because she goes on to release new information about that fraud. And so I want to get into some of those details as we go through this, Crane. But what do you think of Linda McMahon and this letter to Tim Walz? And kid, you also, I said this the other day when we were talking about this fraud in Minnesota. There's an alternate timeline out there where this man is vice president of the United States. I mean, can you even imagine?
Yeah, there's so many places to go. The flip test, we could go there, but I mean, we could do this all day. I always like your flip test, though.
Oh, it works every time, baby. It works every time.
That this guy, Tim Walz, he's a buffoon, and he's mean, and he's reckless. And I think if the press did its job, he would be forced to resign. But Minnesota's in real trouble. Don't they have Ellison up there?
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
This is bad stuff.
Heath Ellison still has a job in politics in America, and a very powerful one. I think he's the attorney general in Minnesota.
Yes.
And then you've got, of course, Ilhan Omar and Tim Walz. Right. I mean, Minnesota is a mess, to your point. Go ahead.
And it would be rooted out because sunlight is a great disinfectant. And the only sunlight that you're going to see are from people like Linda McMahon, who did a wonderful job at the Small Business Administration post in the previous administration. And she was fantastic on a debate because she asked Blumenthal, I have to say this, Blumenthal, a question of what is the purpose of a business? And he's like, talking around and she goes, profit. First and foremost, that's, you've got to make money. And it was a wonderful moment for capitalism. And yet she lost the election. But bottom line, I think you are seeing on full display, the Democrats are totally not qualified to help a problem and fix problems. Oftentimes, as it was, they get us here into these problems. And so if I'm the Republican Party and I take a message that we clean things up and we fix problems, and anybody they have over there compared to a Republican general is going to be far worse. And you can see that in the way they respond to any kind of criticism, much less a huge scandal, maybe the largest financial scandal in history.
Yeah, and it gets worse. So here's the new information now. In addition to the fraud scandal that has garnered national headlines with nonprofits like Feeding Our Future, primarily in the Somali community, alleged to have defrauded taxpayers of at least $1 billion under Walz's watch, McMahon's letter focuses on findings from her department that show fraud taking place in Minnesota's college education system. Last week, the Department of Education announced that it has thwarted more than $1 billion in student aid fraud under Trump's first year in office, including stopping suspected bots and ghost students from obtaining taxpayer-funded loans. One of the ghost students' schemes that allegedly took place in Minnesota left Riverland Community College averaging more than 100 potentially fraudulent applications per year. In the letter to Walz, McMahon focused on the potential fraud in that area in his state and said almost 2,000 ghost students were found. Quote, "We call these fraudsters ghost students because they were not ID verified and often did not live in the United States or simply did not exist at all," McMahon wrote in the letter. In Minnesota, 1,834 ghost students were found who have received $12.5 million in taxpayer-funded grants and loans. They collected checks from the federal government, shared in a portion of the money with the college, and pocketed the rest without attending the college at all. Completely fake students, nearly 2,000 of them in Minnesota in just the last year received $12.5 million, Crane. And that's just one area in one state of the country. I mean, probably maybe one of the worst, but geez, I mean,
this is
go ahead.
Well, it's why you don't want to put government in charge of anything. Outside its and if you really want to solve the student loan problem, implementing the institution having to pay back the money if the student doesn't before they lend it. So if somebody comes in and says, "Hey, I want to study, I don't know, some basket weaving history," and with the history of basket weaving, they say, "Okay, we're not going to give you that loan because you can't make money after that."
You know, speaking of all of this, any day now we should be getting Rand Paul's Festivus report, which is his waste report of the year. When you reminded me of that when you said basket weaving, because there will be some kind of the study of the mating habits of the spotted white bass in Colorado, and then how $4 million were used in some ridiculous, and it'll just get worse and worse from there.
It will, and that's why I go more to my libertarian side that you understand. And there is a coalition there of common sense that people need to zone into, because a lot of people are tired of people being above the law. They just want to see the system work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I've been saying this a lot, and we'll get deeper into this, I'm sure, next week when we talk to you about looking back at this past year and looking forward at what needs to be focused on by Republicans if they want to try to hold on to power in the midterm elections and throughout 2026. This is the kind of stuff that they need to continue to make sure they put out there, and it's on the media. It's upon us to make sure that the information is being disseminated. People need to realize, they need to hear these numbers. It's not enough just to say like, "Hey, we've gotten, we've cleaned things up at the border." We need to hear the details and the stats and the numbers on, the improvement or the bad things like this. Like focus and tell the American people, and use the facts and the statistics to show the success or the issue that you are attacking, and really make that message clear. I think that's crucial to the messaging in 2026 if Republicans want to continue to hold power. What do you think?
Absolutely. Get on message, and don't be like the Providence Police Department, which was absolutely horrible yesterday, that press conference. Prayers go out to the families, obviously. My point is, communication is such a part of this, and I hope President Trump takes that opportunity. I think he's doing a better job with Rubio today talking about Venezuela, but it's about communication. Thank you. Yes, it's about communication, and it's necessary because people need to understand what is happening. And there is a deliberate effort to cloud the issue from people who are misbehaving, and putting it mildly.
Yeah.
So Communication's huge.
And we will, of course, be here every day, Colombo and Company and the entire team throughout the day, News Talk STL. And, of course, our good friend Crane Durham. And if you are not already, make sure you check out nothingbutTruth.com, the Nothing But Truth Facebook page, to also keep up on everything that Crane is covering and working on. And as always, appreciate your time, my friend. Crane Durham, really appreciate you.
Love you.
Back
You're
at
a
ya.
great communicator.
Well, we try. And I couldn't do it without you. Crane Durham, nothingbutTruth.com. And we are going to continue the conversation. Susie Moore, the busiest person in all of media. She is the co-host of Mike Ferguson in the Morning, which you can hear every weekday morning here on News Talk STL. Also Red State Radio, which you can hear every Sunday afternoon here on News Talk STL. And of course, you can read her articles every day at redstate.com. We've got a little more coming out of Minnesota. The story regarding Ilhan Omar I want to talk about. Also, Zorhan Mondani's dad up in New York and more. We'll get into all of it with Susie Moore next.
Thank you, baby. I wanna stop.
This holiday season, help Feed My People fill the shelves. News Talk STL and the STL County GOP are partnering for an annual food drive, November 10th through December 21st. Drop off your non-perishable food donations at all Bartolino's restaurants, all Chris's Pancakes and dining locations, all 3 Michael's Flooring outlets, STL Windows and Doors, or at the News Talk STL studios.
Hey, it's Larry Connors, and together we can make a difference for families in need.
Visit newstalkstl.com for complete drop-off locations.
Parents want more choices rather than fewer when it comes to their children's education. And now some Missouri parents will have one more option to get their children the best education available. Low-income students and those with disabilities in Missouri's largest communities can now apply for an Empowerment Scholarship Account, or ESA. With an ESA, the money the state would normally pay to your child's public school goes into an account that you control. You can use the funds for private school tuition, online learning programs, a private tutor, or other approved uses. You can tailor your child's education. For too long, Missouri officials have operated on the mistaken notion that parents only need one choice. They're assigned public school based on their address. ESAs put parents in charge. It's school choice at its best, with money following the students to the place that best fits their needs. Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. This Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Hi, I'm Lieutenant Governor David Wassinger. As Christmas approaches, I want to encourage you to support Missouri businesses this holiday season. When you're out shopping for the perfect gift, please stop by a local store and choose something made right here in the Show Me State. Missouri businesses are the backbone of our communities, and supporting them is a priority for me. To find Missouri-made goods and retailers near you, please visit buymissouri.net. Merry Christmas, and please remember to buy Missouri.
Paid for by the Office of Lieutenant Governor David Wassinger.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNVS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News at Town Hall. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. Defense Secretary Hegseth says he will not publicly release video of a military strike on a boat that killed survivors in the Caribbean. He does say he'll show the unedited video to selected groups of lawmakers, but it will remain classified.
We're also going to tomorrow allow the HASC and SASC to see the unedited video of the September 2nd, alongside with Admiral Bradley, who has done a fantastic job, has made all the right calls, and we're glad he'll be there to do it. But in keeping with longstanding Department of War policy, Department of Defense policy, of course, we're not going to release a top secret full unedited video of that to the general public.
HASC and SASC, referring to the House and Senate Armed Services Committees. The U.S. Senate advanced the annual defense policy bill on an overwhelmingly bipartisan vote Monday.
The roughly $901 billion package, which is about $8 billion over what President Donald Trump requested earlier this year, typically acts as a bookend for Congress, capping off the year as one of the few must-pass items on the docket.
And Bernie Bennett reports that's why there's so much bipartisan cooperation. A House subcommittee is shedding light on the Southern Poverty Law Center, which critics say has targeted Christians and conservative Americans. Tony Perkins, president of the Family Research Council and host of This Week on Capitol Hill on the Salem Radio Network, was one of the witnesses.
SPLC is an activist advocacy organization that, to use a sports analogy, is not only a player, but they blow the whistle, call the penalties, claiming authority to decide who may speak while actively shaping the political fight themselves.
The House Judiciary Subcommittee hearings are taking a closer look at the Southern Poverty Law Center's coordinated efforts with the Biden-Harris administration to target Christians and conservative Americans and allegedly deprive them of their constitutional rights. More on these stories at townhall.com.
With Progressive's collision coverage, my family gets up to $1,000 for vet bills if I'm injured in a car accident. And that makes this Chihuahua really feel like part of the family. What's that? I don't sound like a Chihuahua? Oh, I'm sorry. What exactly am I supposed to sound like? I guess all Chihuahuas are high-strung, riding around in expensive designer purses. Actually, I prefer riding in cars. So I appreciate that my family protects me with Progressive's pet collision coverage. Okay, maybe I am a little high-strung. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Not available in all states. Coverage for dogs and cats is included with the purchase of collision coverage and is subject to policy terms.
Charlie Kirk believed courage and conviction still matter. He wanted every Christian to stand firm in their faith, no matter the cost. That's why the Voice of the Martyrs is offering you a free copy of Extreme Devotion. Inside are true stories of Christians in places like China, Iran, and Nigeria who refused to deny Jesus Christ, even in the face of imprisonment or death. Charlie's passion was to see that kind of faith in all of us. Get your free copy today at vom.org/Charlie. That's vom.org/Charlie.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
What a day, huh? Plenty of sunshine out there and high temperatures in the mid-50s, a dry day. Not as cold overnight tonight, lows in the 30s tomorrow, and again, the highs in the mid-50s. We'll see some clouds occasionally, especially later in the day, but it looks like some rain is moving in on Thursday, possibly a couple of rumbles of thunder. It'll turn cooler as well. I'm meteorologist Kent Earhart.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Fox News Commentary with Guy Benson. Next.
2025 is wrapping up, and here's the truth. Uncertainty isn't going anywhere. Noble Gold Investments help you protect what you've built with real gold and silver, stuff that holds value when everything else is melting down. This holiday season, the best gift you can give your family? Peace of mind. Don't wait for the next crash to blindside you. Go to noblegoldinvestments.com and get started today. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. Don't leave the future to chance. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals involves risk. Consult your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision.
Here's Guy Benson.
For the most part, the Democrats have become a pro-illegal immigration party. They support it. They support illegal immigration. They support illegal immigrants. They value illegal immigrants, often it seems, more than American citizens, which even to me would sound like a crazy thing to say not very long ago as a former squish on the issue, but it is what it is. It's not every Democrat, but an awful lot of them seem to treasure illegal immigrants, even criminal illegal immigrants, almost above all else. And whether that's a symptom of wanting to show opposition to Donald Trump, no matter what, or something else, I don't know. I don't really care. The result is something completely unacceptable.
For more commentary like this, go to foxnewspodcast.com.
Whether at home or at work, you're mobile. So when you're mobile, stay mobile. Keep St. Louis's home for conservative talk with you wherever you go. Download the News Talk STL app in the App Store or at newstalkstl.com.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Big thanks to Crane Durham from nothingbutruth.com for joining us in that 2 o'clock hour. We now continue the conversation with, again, the busiest person in media that I have ever known, Susie Moore, the co-host of Mike Ferguson in the Morning every weekday starting at 5:30 a.m. here on News Talk STL. the host of Red State Radio, which is every Sunday afternoon here on News Talk STL, and deputy managing editor and someone who you can read their articles every day at redstate.com. Susie, I don't know how you do it all, but as always, I appreciate you finding time in that crazy busy schedule to join us this afternoon. Great to talk with you.
Thanks, Tony. Glad to be here, of course.
Thank you. So I want to get into, usually we focus almost exclusively on court cases and things like that and take advantage of it, because on top of all that, Susie's also an attorney. So she's our legal expert on the show. I do have a couple things that I want to touch on, but then I also want to just get into some of the other stories of the day, because there's just so much going on out there and so many things that I'm trying to keep up with. But let's start with a couple of the court cases. And basically, I just wanted to see if we had an update on. There's been specifically two issues that have cropped back up in the news cycle here recently that I know are kicking their way around the Supreme Court. But I wanted to see if we could get if there was any update on these issues. And I'm talking about the birthright citizenship issue and tariffs. We can go kind of one at a time. You and I have talked a lot about the birthright citizenship issue. And that's been, in and out of the news a bunch during the Trump administration. Where are we as far as that case or that ruling would be concerned? When do you think that do we know when we will we will get some information from the Supreme Court regarding birthright citizenship?
We really don't. We know that they've agreed to take the case up, but they haven't yet set the date for the oral argument on that. It won't be, at least as of right now, it's not set for January. So my guess is that it'll be in February. And then once they hear the argument, of course, they can take, as long as maybe even to the end of the term at the end of June before they issue their ruling on it.
Gotcha. So this will continue to be in the position that it is now in the news cycle as these stories come and go. We're still going to be waiting for this ruling before we before one of the sides, you always hear the arguments from both sides whenever this is within the news, but we won't know who's the winner of that argument for at least several months at this point.
Correct. As of right now, technically, the administration is the loser in it because all of the lower courts that have been contesting or contending with the issue have placed a hold on the executive order that limits birthright citizenship. So we're in the same position that we were before Trump took office on that issue, and unless and until the Supreme Court says no, that that is appropriate, that sort of thing. So yeah, we're kind of in a holding pattern.
And then the other issue that continues to be at the top of the headlines in so many different stories is tariffs. And it sounds to me and I don't have nearly the insight or the instincts on this issue as you do, but I feel like the president is almost preparing for a loss on this. It seems like he's already making his argument against a ruling before the ruling has even been made. Where are we at with the tariffs issue as far as the court is concerned?
Yeah, one of the things I want to give President Trump and this administration credit for is that they have kind of taken an all of the above approach on a lot of these issues from a strategic standpoint. So they kind of went right at them. And of course, remember, what was it, Liberty Day or whatever it was called when they rolled out the tariffs, and Liberation Day.
Yeah. I totally forgot about that.
It was a big to-do.
Oh, yeah.
But I think they've been doing a couple different things. Number one, they've been using the tariffs as the stick, if you will, with a bunch of the different nations out there and working out trade deals in the interim that may make some of them moot by the time this gets decided. Now, of course, they argued the cases before the Supreme Court in the beginning of November. We don't know how quickly the court will rule. It could be, this month. It could be 3 months from now. We don't know for sure. We do know that the court was very cognizant that this could have major ramifications, broadly across our economy, and is being very mindful of that. So I think the court's going to be very careful with its decision. And to the extent it's able to perhaps split the baby and maybe lay out more clearly the parameters of the executive's power on this front, while not just completely detonating what's already been done, I think the court's going to try really hard to do that. So yeah, I mean, we're waiting on that decision as well. That has already been argued. So, could come anytime, but my guess is because it's such a complex issue that it's going to be a little while before we hear on
Okay, so that one is definitely coming a lot quicker than anything on birthright citizenship, but still could be a little bit still.
And the thing of it is too, and I forgot when, I kind of went down one rabbit trail and forgot to come back. In addition to negotiating deals with countries so that the ultimate outcome of this case may not really affect some of it, I think that the administration has been figuring out sort of end runs and ways to get around and approach this from several different directions, so that even if the Supreme Court says, yep, you can't do this, they've got other options and avenues to pursue.
And actually, I said that those were the two. Actually, I have one more, and this one gets hits more locally, and I'll definitely dig into this issue tomorrow when we talk to our Missouri political insider Rodney Boyd, who is with us every Wednesday. And I know you guys talked about this. I heard you guys talking about this morning on Mike Ferguson in the morning. The Missouri Attorney General has said that the Attorney General and the Secretary of State have made the announcement that the new congressional map will go into effect this week, despite all the pushback, the movement by various groups and the petitions that have been turned in and all of that. That is all still being processed and could change things down the line. But as of now, the state of Missouri is going to adopt the new map that went into place during the special session in the summer, that was adopted by lawmakers during that special session this past summer. What do you think the future holds for this issue, especially as far as like the courts and the legal opposition to it is concerned?
So it's kind of hard to say, because there's a couple of different court cases being litigated. Now, the new maps went into effect as of midnight last Thursday. They are in effect. They remain in effect unless and until a court says, nope, you gotta hold up, roll it back, because A, this is going to be a referendum that's going to be decided by the voters, or B, there's some other reason. But there, as with the tariff situation, this is being approached and attacked from several different angles and from both sides of the equation. So you've got the people that are challenging it, that have put together all the petition signatures, and those signatures are being verified. The catch there is that nothing changes unless and until the signatures are verified and they meet their required amount that they need, which is something like 107,000 signatures. They've collected close to 300,000, but probably about 90,000 of those were collected before the thing ever went into effect, so they're being challenged. And the county clerks of each of the counties have until July 28th to verify all the signatures that are turned in their counties. So we're not even going to know. I mean, some of them could do it sooner than that, but we're not even going to know theoretically until the end of July whether and to what extent each of these signatures has been verified and accounted for. At that point, we're right in front of the primary election. So I don't know. I'm definitely not an election law expert, and I think this is more twists and turns than we are used to seeing anyway in these cases. I don't know how that plays out, other than I think the by default it's actually in our favor right now, or I should say in the 7-1 map favor right now, because that is what's in effect unless and until it's overturned.
Yeah, and that always having it in place is always a position of power. The incumbency always holds a little bit of an advantage over the other side. But the theme with seemingly so many of these issues is we've got a long way to go. before
we do
get
have a
to any
long way to go.
resolution. Yeah. So
And one of the things too is, not only is there that suit over the signatures, but then the state of Missouri, the AG's office, they've been challenging whether or not this is even the proper mechanism by which to challenge congressional maps.
Mm-hmm.
So that's being litigated too. There's a lot of different moving pieces and parts here. I'm not even, up to speed on all of them. So we don't know until we know, but what we know right now is that the new map is in effect.
Yeah, and I think we're and to your point, I think we're also in unprecedented territory. And like you said, I've heard from people that have said, like this is it's clear, it's in the Constitution on how maps are drawn, and it's lawmakers. It's not the vote. It's not through this process, this amendment process or this petition process. And so this is the way it should be. But then you also hear like well, maybe not. Maybe it's not as clear as that, and we've actually never tackled this before, so we're kind of making up the rules as we go, and that can definitely create some confusion and draw things out a bit.
Absolutely. And, it kind of makes me giggle because while I don't really miss the practice of law, I'm enjoying my second career here. It's like part of me is like, well, I guess I picked the wrong time to get out of that field since the lawyers are keeping super duper busy these days.
Yeah. All right. I want to get into some of this, the stories of the day, because there are so many. I listed a bunch at the beginning of the show and still not even halfway, I don't think, through that list. So as we continue the conversation with Susie Moore, I want to, I touched on this a little earlier. Zoran Mondani's father is in the news today, criticizing Colombia's crackdown on anti-Semitism at that university. Mahmoud Mondani, the father of New York Mayor-elect Zoran Mondani, said Columbia University's anti-Israel student activists are terrified about how the school plans to address anti-Semitism. Mondani, who was the Herbert Lehman Professor of Government there at Columbia before taking leave in September, spoke about the university's response to the anti-Israel protests over the past 2 weeks, saying, despite working for the university, Mondani criticized campus leadership and claimed that the school was intimidating activists with its emphasis on combating anti-Semitism. I can't even believe these words are real. Quote, well, students are terrified, Mondani said. They are terrorized. In the smallest move they make, they are targeted, they are expelled, they are suspended, they are warned, which means we have less and less of an idea of what they think and how they might respond to their situation. The administration is in a vindictive mood. Mondani said that he had planned to urge Columbia leadership at a university Senate meeting later this week to focus on a healing process instead of targeting students. This is tough to take after just thinking about the various any means necessary, river to the sea chants that we so publicly saw on display at Columbia and other places, that Zoran Mondani's father, now one of the professors at Columbia, is he's angry at the university's attempt to combat anti-Semitism. New York is really in for a lot in the coming year. What do you make of this and just the direction of this Mondani family and its influence and what's going to happen in New York once they take control?
Well, I think it's rich for the bullies to be crying,
Yes.
foul that like they're being victimized. Now, I mean, I do want to be fair about this. I mean, there needs to be room for people to voice their opinions and that sort of thing, and you don't want people's First Amendment rights being trampled. But it is very rich, given everything that happened and why there has been this pushback and this basically call to address anti-Semitism. That's for a reason. It's because after October 7th, we saw such a gross display of Jewish students being made to feel unsafe, being, terrorized on campus, that sort of thing. So now for the people some of whom were perpetrators of that, to claim that they're the victims is just, it's like everything's upside down.
And he didn't present any proof. And I agree with you that you never want to overcorrect and step on somebody's rights on the other side of things. But I've seen no evidence that is happening. I have plenty of evidence on the other side of things. I mean, like literally those signs that said any means necessary being held up proudly, and River to the Sea, and all of these, accusations and attacks and protests and, illegal, and not even protests. I'm okay with protests.
Right.
A lot what we saw at Columbia and other universities over the last year has been, criminal activity. So I agree with you, but I've seen no evidence that any of that is happening. It's just, he's just upset that they're not getting the cover, or being allowed to act in any way that they want anymore, that somebody's finally pushing back. That's the way I see it.
Was it Norm Macdonald? Was it Norm Macdonald that had the joke about, like, I'm gonna blow it. I'm gonna mess it up. So I'm not gonna try. It was just basically,
I was looking forward to it.
Turning, well, it has to do with Islamophobia and turning everything on its head. And it's like, some bad Islamic attack occurs, and then it's like everybody's worried about Islamophobia. It's the same sort of thing. And I'm so tired of hearing it. We've seen so many horrific things. The attack in Australia on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I'm getting very, very tired of hearing that sort of claim without the backup, and as sort of an attempted, fig leaf, I guess, for what's wrong. I mean, the bigotry and the anti-Semitism is wrong. Bigotry is wrong. I mean, it's just, I don't know. But with Mamdani himself, I mean, presumably, it's Zoran that's the mayor, not his dad. But obviously, we've got 2 weeks until he's the mayor of New York City, and I think that the denizens of New York City are going to be in for a rough ride. Maybe he'll surprise us, but I just think when you see like who he's picking to work in his administration and where he's going, what his agenda items are, I just think it's going to be a disaster. And maybe the silver lining will be, well, okay, people get to see what happens when you let that play out that way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I'm glad you brought up the Australia response. We talked a lot about that in the 2:00 hour. I encourage people to go back and check it out on the podcast. The focus there and the response there has been not calling out terrorism. It's been a call for stricter gun laws and things like that. It's weak, and it's frustrating. And like I said, we talked a lot about the latest there in the 2:00 hour. If you missed any of it, please go and check it out. Staying in New York for a moment here, AOC's luxury spending binge in Puerto Rico is being labeled peak hypocrisy after dropping nearly $50,000 in Puerto Rico on luxury hotels, upscale dining, and a venue rental where musical artist Bad Bunny was performing earlier this year. Critics of Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are questioning whether her socialist persona is more branding than belief, considering she is living like the elitists she claims to fight. So I've got lots of quotes and lots of reaction here. It all is surrounding a campaign filings, AOC's latest campaign filings, that shows that she spent nearly $50,000 in Puerto Rico around the same time. She was known to have traveled there and attended a Bad Bunny concert. The campaign finance report from the third quarter, which records campaign expenses for members of Congress between July 1 and September 30th, shows that AOC's campaign spent over $15,000 on 2 luxury hotels in San Juan, where Bad Bunny was performing. I love that Bad Bunny is like at the center of all of this.
I know.
Of all of this
reporting.
The campaign also spent nearly $11,000 on meals and catering services. The filings show. There's lots of great quotes out there. One of them from Republican Florida congressional hopeful Michael Carbonera. He said in response, quote, AOC rails nonstop against, quote, the rich, yet drops tens of thousands in campaign cash on luxury hotels, upscale catering, and elite venues on a Puerto Rico trip. Socialism for you, first class living for her. The hypocrisy writes itself. Well said, but I don't know that her supporters care, or maybe they don't see it, or maybe they don't care because, you know, she's one of the rising stars on the left. Your thoughts?
I guess. I mean, it's kind of interesting, in particular, given her notoriety for her, you know, her eat the rich dress.
Yes, exactly.
The dress.
Yes. Yes.
You know,
Sean
so
Spicer is one of the
kind
quotes that I have written down here. You know, former White House press secretary, and he like specifically talks about that Met Gala dress with Eat the Rich and how it was that even that dress itself was a designer dress made specifically for her that probably cost thousands of dollars, just that dress. And then of course he also goes into, you know, the excesses lived by many of these Congress people like AOC, who say that they hate the rich and you know, that the evils of money and all of that, and yet they continue to you know, get rich from their power and the benefits that come along with being in Congress.
Right, but Tony, they're the good kind of rich.
Oh, is that it?
Right.
Is that like John Kerry? Like it's okay for him to fly?
Others.
Yeah. Is it like the John Kerry thing where it's okay for him to fly on private jets because he has carbon credits? Somehow the exhaust, that exhaust doesn't count as pollution like the rest of us do. I'm still trying to figure all that out.
It's the betters exception.
Right.
That's the way socialism works. You know, the betters get to benefit from it and profit from it, but everybody else gets to, you know, deal with the dregs of it. Yeah, I mean, I suspect that the people that are AOC's supporters kind of fall into two different camps. There's the diehard true believer socialist folk who, if they're being intellectually honest, would have to look at the fact that, you know, her behavior is not aligning with their ideals. And then there's the people that just support her because they support her. So they don't care. You know, they'll cut her the slack that she needs on that.
And, you know, last thing here, and I'm sure in the coming weeks, we'll be talking a whole lot about, you know, 2026 and the midterm elections and, you know, the candidates that are rising and falling and all of that. But I just mentioned, you know, AOC always finds herself on the list of possible presidential candidates down the road in 2028 or, you know, in the future. It definitely seems to continue to be a rising star, which is baffling, along with many of the other names like J.B. Pritzker in Illinois. But also there was a big event over the weekend, a Democratic summit in California. I won't get into all the details, but it was attended by both Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom. And a lot of these reports out of this event over the weekend talk about how well received and how very popular. Gavin Newsom doesn't surprise me as much, but even Kamala Harris and how much support she still seems to have from a lot of the, you know, hardcore Democrats in this country, which is just baffling to me. Do you see Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, AOC, J.B. Pritzker? I mean, all of these names still seem to be at the leading the way, unbelievably somehow, despite losses or being exposed for various issues. I mean, is that the next crop? Is that the new lineup when it comes to Democratic leadership? Those names that we've just mentioned, and obviously a few others.
Well, I think it kind of comes down to it's who they've got. I mean,
who's doing the vetting?
If they're, you know, like if you're looking at, you know, particularly the California crew, I mean, Kamala is likable and well received as compared to what? Katie Porter, Eric Swalwell, Adam Schiff. Yeah, of
great
course.
point.
Because it's like, who's more odious than the next one? If they've got stars that could be better than the ones that they're putting forth, they're hiding them. Because, I mean, you know, the only other people who get named are Josh Shapiro or maybe Andy Bashir, but we're not seeing them being elevated. We're not seeing them being put to the front. So I guess it's like, well, this is what we got.
Yeah.
So this is what we're going to go with.
It's shocking. It was shocking to me to read this report about how embraced and how popular Kamala Harris seems to be. I would have guessed that has crashed and burned at this point, and maybe it will.
Who's left in the bar at 1 a.m., Tony?
That's good.
Who's left in the bar?
That's such a great point. That's such a great point. I've been guilty of that exact thing more than once, but not for
I
a
don't
long,
know
long
anything
time.
about it other than what I've heard. So,
Susie Moore, you can't be in the bar at 1 a.m. because that's about what
Not
time
me.
you wake up.
Hell no. I'm way too old for that.
Susie, thank you as always for your time again every morning with Mike Ferguson in the morning starting at 5:30 a.m. Sunday afternoons. The host of Red State Radio. And of course, you can read our articles every day at redstate.com. I don't know how you do it all, Susie, but thank you so much for all of your help here on the show and at the station. Really appreciate your time as always, my friend.
Thanks, Tony.
Yeah,
Have a great
stuff.
evening.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you too. Great stuff there from Susie Moore. All right, before we get out of here, speaking of these big name Democrats that are, the new standard bearer of that party, Jasmine Crockett continues to make news with her Senate campaign. Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana had some thoughts about that campaign. And, that's always entertaining anytime you hear from Senator Kennedy. So we'll talk about that. Also, back to Minnesota, ICE is rejecting Congresswoman Ilhan Omar's claim that her son was pulled over by feds and pressed for proof of citizenship. The Congresswoman has been making a big deal about this, and ICE is saying this whole interaction just never even happened. So we'll talk about that as well as we continue through the afternoon and get you ready for the Tim Jones and Chris Arp show. You're listening to Colombo and Company on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Follow Tony Colombo on Twitter at Tony Colombo Talk. News, analysis, opinion.
It almost seems common sense, but, alas, common sense isn't so common these days.
News Talk STL.
Grasser Electric is the team to call if you have any electrical needs at your home or business, if you have any electrical projects coming up at your home or business, especially this time of year when we are going through some severe weather. If you have a power outage at your home or business, you don't want to have to wonder about the team that you call. You don't want to have to worry about, am I calling the right people? Can I trust this team, the folks that I am calling? That is one of the great things and one of the great reasons that we trust Grasser Electric at our home. In fact, I was one of those people a few years ago until we discovered Grasser Electric. We discovered Grasser when we moved into our new home a few years ago. And, before that, you have an electrical problem and it's just like a pit in your stomach and you don't know how much is this going to cost? How big of a deal is this going to be? Can I trust the people that I'm talking to? And then you find a team like Grasser Electric, and it's just like a massive weight off your shoulders. Grasser specializes in all electrical needs, ranging from large-scale commercial projects all the way down to simple home service needs like replacing a bad light switch. As I mentioned, we've had them in our house multiple times over the last few years. I can speak from that personal experience that there is just nobody better than Grasser Electric. They also offer free quotes for new projects. So if you have an electrical problem or just need a quote for new work, contact Grasser now. Contact them and learn more just by going to the website, grasserelectric.com.
Concerned about the condition of your windows driving up your energy bills? I was too. It's only called STL Windows and Doors. Their Provia windows combine old world craftsmanship the professional way, the Provia way, with over 65 years of combined experience, locally owned, offering competitive pricing and personalized service that the big box companies can't match. Call today for your free in-home estimate and start saving tomorrow. 314-277-5952 or stlwindowsanddoors.com. This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
Leftists and other gun opponents often point to Australia as a great example where strict gun control works. They say the U.S. should be like Australia, no mass shootings. And then comes the deadly event this last weekend. Sunday, on a beautiful beach, a beautiful day, hundreds joined to celebrate the beginning of Hanukkah. Children running, playing in the waves, the sand, men and women sharing food and fun, and then came a barrage of gunfire. And when it was over, more than a dozen, including a child and a rabbi, were dead. It was a father-son team doing the shooting, targeting Jews. It should be noted that one man who jumped on one of the shooters, taking away his rifle, no doubt saved lives. He was a Muslim. Let that sink in. A Muslim doing what he could to stop the carnage, the killing of the Jews. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu says, months ago, I warned the Australian Prime Minister, when you recognize Palestine as a state, you're going to set off this anti-Semitic violence. Netanyahu said, Jew hatred spreads. Well, those in Australia now are echoing what often happens with the left in our nation, demanding more gun laws. Whatever happened to the commandment, thou shalt not kill?
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
In all these years that Wellington Environmental has been my sponsor, I've never mentioned their duct cleaning services. Allergy season is here, and Wellington crews clean air ducts daily in homes and commercial buildings, also cleaning air handling units and diffusers in commercial facilities. Why? Well, because people will see black dirt and mold on the vents, or they are actually suffering from allergies. Don't be fooled by low-cost duct cleaning providers saying they charge only per vent, because once they get on site, the price will skyrocket. Wellington does not do this, never has. Wellington will give you an estimate, and you say Larry Connors, and immediately you get a 20% discount. Call Cindy, 314-644-4930, 314-644-4930. Make your home and business better, safer with Wellington. Be well with Wellington.
It all comes down to this, folks.
Yep, the entire season is on the line.
But my throat has officially thrown in the towel. Sounds like you need Vicks VapoCool drops. They're max strength and vaporize sore throat pain.
Whoa! These VapoCool drops hit fast.
Speaking of fast, did you just see that play?
Yeah, he vaporized that ball.
That fun should have come with a penalty.
Vaporize sore throat pain with Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Severe from Vicks.
Sinex Severe Nasal Spray.
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Severe instantly relieves nasal congestion and works 6 times faster than nasal decongestant tablets. The 12 hours of relief allow you to get back to the moments that matter without congestion.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Try Sinex Severe from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
Looking for a gift sure to please? Simply go to Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield. You get a gift card, you choose the value, then they can use it at any of the Napoli locations. Plus, you want to surprise them with something totally unexpected? Walk a few doors down, Lit Cigar Lounge. That gift card can be used for premium cigars, lighters, decorative ashtrays. Once again, you made someone happy. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta and Lit Cigar Lounge.
On the next
Larry Connors USA.
Today's story behind the story, selling color televisions when most programs were black and white.
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.9 News Talk STL. Thanks again to Susie Moore and Crane Durham for their help this afternoon. If you missed any of that conversation, make sure you go back and check out our podcast. Best way to make sure you never miss anything here on the show, subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform. We put the show out as a podcast right after we get off the air every day, so just subscribe and you'll never miss anything. Senator John Kennedy weighing in on Jasmine Crockett's Senate campaign announcement. He dismissed Crockett's Senate bid as unserious in a recent interview with Laura Trump, saying that she's unserious and out of step with Texas voters. Quote, they need to tell her that the voices in her head are not real. I don't want anybody in Congress who doesn't want to be here. He then reiterated his confidence that the Texas Senate seat will remain Republican. Confident that Republicans or the citizens in Texas are not going to give that seat to Jasmine Crockett. Also, we'll probably dig deeper into this story tomorrow. We're almost out of time here, but this is, all the stuff coming out of Minnesota. Add this to the pile. ICE is rejecting a claim made by Congresswoman Ilhan Omar that her son was pulled over by feds and pressed for citizenship proof. Omar had told the CBS Twin Cities affiliate that her son was subjected to a traffic stop encounter with ICE agents over this past weekend, but was ultimately let go without further issue after he was able to produce a U.S. passport. However, reports from ICE, including the leader of ICE, has said that this is completely false. Todd Lyons, acting ICE director, said, quote, ICE has absolutely zero record of its officers or agents pulling over Congresswoman Omar's son. It speaks volumes that Congresswoman Omar is leveling these accusations with absolutely zero proof. Lyons went on to call the Omar's comments a ridiculous effort to demonize federal law enforcement. So I am sure that is one of the many stories coming out of Minnesota and around the country that will continue to be something that we keep an eye on and keep you up to speed on. Colombo Company, Ashley and I, we will be back tomorrow at 2. In the meantime, keep it here for the O'Reilly Report next, followed by the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Bunny Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on the St. Louis radio airways for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. You can now hear Doug and Safe Bunny Radio every weekend on News Talk STL. But in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeBunnyRadio.com. What else do our listeners need to know, Doug?
Simply put, I focus on helping pre-retirees and retirees build, preserve, and protect retirement assets, and I've been helping my clients solve their insurance and financial needs for the past 33 years. I also strive to educate my clients on how to prepare for retirement, minimize the impact of market volatility on their assets, and deal with the challenges of increased longevity. Call me today at 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233.
Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
Is your pup in need of a spa day? At Pretty Little Paws, we believe grooming should be a stress